everyone, it's Arafire here, and we're doing yet another Look Out and Shout. And yes, we are going to be reviewing the Netflix War for Cybertron Kingdom series. As it's just fresh out of the gate, I thought we'd get this review out of the way early. Now, some of you will know, of course, I am a massive Beast Wars fan from back in the day. So I was looking for this with, you know, excitement and anticipation, but also a bit of apprehension as to would it be ever as good as what I had back in the 90s, what we all had back in the 90s. So I was going to be a bit of a hard one to win over. There were some good points, there were some bad points. Let's go through them one at a time. And of course, like it says, there will be spoilers in this. You have been warned, there will be spoilers about Kingdom in this video. You don't want to watch it, click off now. Otherwise, enjoy the show. So we'll start off with the good points. As this is the final installation of the War for Cybertron Netflix trilogy, this had a lot to kind of funnel into completion and make sure they tied up every loose end that they wanted to tie up anyway. By and large, the story was actually quite good. Not for the first episode, not for the second episode, and sort of for the third. It got better towards the end, and actually the storytelling elements in it I felt moved quite well, as we found out that it really wasn't about the Matrix at all. Apart from the Matrix rejecting Megatron's ownership of it, which was quite good. It kind of showed like a tormented side of Megatron. It was really all about the Allspark and how it couldn't survive being away from Cybertron, and how it was suffering, and how the Cybertronians were suffering, and Cybertron was suffering as well. So it did tie things together fairly well. Another point I was quite pleased with was the Dinobot character. Sort of. The Dinobot character did have a lot of homages to the original 90s Dinobot from the Beast Wars cartoon back in the day. There was a lot of lip service, shall we say, a lot of lines borrowed, and there was still a lot of honour used in this character, whilst it was very much a different portrayal of Dinobot. And he was a Predacon for a much longer time than I was expecting, and he wasn't really a Maximal much at all, but there was a lot of ties in to what made that character so good, even right up to his memorable death scene that just echoed Code of Hero. Also a very nice plus point was the Maximals, the Autobots, the Decepticons and the Predacons all working together at the end. They all knew what the common enemy was, and we don't often see four factions all tying in and helping out to get their common enemy defeated quite so often. We have seen the Autobots and Decepticons join forces before, but never, to my knowledge, have we seen all four factions rallying together and facing a bigger threat. It was quite nice to see. Starscream's outing as well was quite different. There was obviously the forms of betrayal, but he goes completely tin hat mode. He becomes quite schizophrenic almost when he has his brush with Unicron, and how he has seen the future and how it terrifies him, and how he realises it's bigger than all of them, and how he realises he's not strong enough. But he does decide to take a stand against Megatron, and he even says, "I can do one thing right, I can fly." And it felt like a bit of redemption for Starscream, for a character that's had such steep involvement, but not maybe with the Unicron tie-in. Starscream and Unicron possibly kept a bit separate, other than maybe Starscream's ghost trying to get Unicron's body on it. I'm getting off tangent. But it gave Starscream a reason to be fearful, fighting for his life but also fighting for everyone else's life. Hearing the lines like, "There's been so much death, too much death." It was a very interesting redemption story for Starscream. I found how he kind of made this conscious awareness, a realisation for what was going to come. And, of course, the Teletran Titan. I think that's what we'll call it. It wasn't really referred to as the last Autobot, as everyone else is saying this is what it resembles and this is what it must be, but it really was just kind of the Ark, or Teletran 1, as a Titan. I actually forgot about it, to be honest, even though there's a massive toy that's been released. I didn't know if we were actually going to see it in this series. I don't think there was a hint for it. But when it happened, when he transforms, comes effectively out of the mountain and decides to punch a massive hole in the side of the Nemesis, it was quite cool to see actually. I thought the character design looked quite good, with the piercing blue eyes coming over the crest of the mountain. It was quite an imposing moment. And one of the few times you actually see a transformation going on with the actual Transformers or people within the Transformer. So yeah, that was quite good, quite unexpected, but obviously quite a groundbreaking moment. Okay, so now on to the negative points, and believe me, there are some. After watching the first episode, I was not impressed. I didn't think it was going in any kind of creative direction. I wasn't actually sure what direction the show was going to be going in, other than just introducing the characters. The big one that really stood out to me was, I guess, some of the missing characters. You kind of felt that the Maximals were very heavy on their inclusions. You had a Tigertron, Rat Trap, Air Razor, Primal, Rhinox. They were all there. All of the season 1 cast were there. And even Dinobot if you include him. But then with the Predacons, it was Beast Wars Megatron, Black Arachnia, Dinobot, and many Scorponok's for some reason. That really interests me. No, actually that really annoyed me a little bit. We get an inclusion of Scorponok. He's not mentioned by name, he's mentioned on the subtitles because I saw that appear, and then there's multiple ones of him. There's no Tarantulas, there's no Waspinator, no Pterosaur, no Inferno. They're just not there, they're cut out. Now obviously Hasbro haven't released toys of them, that obviously plays a big part of it, but this really did feel like a big tilt in the Maximals' favour, and not a fair representation. But it wasn't just the Maximals or the Predacons who were a bit underrepresented, if you like. There was no Jetfire, we got no real reason to know what happened to him. There was no Red Alert, even though there's been a Kingdom toy of Red Alert. There was no Shockwave, what happened to him? There were some missing characters that really ties into another negative point of this show. Now, it's been mentioned before, 6 episodes is just not enough. You got, 18 episodes across 3 series to try and tell quite a story that's involving Quintesson's Dead Universe, Matrix, Allspark, a bit of history as well, Maximals, Predacons, how there's time travelling in Unicron. That's a lot to cram into 18 27-minute episodes. So naturally there are going to be bits going to waste. And you've got all of these characters to drop in, and they just get these cameo bit part appearances like Skylynx did. Now when Skylynx appeared in Earthrise, I really liked it, but how long was he on screen for? Maybe 6 minutes? In 18 episodes, it's not long enough to build up long-lasting characters. You kind of want to put them in. I mean, think of Jetfire. Think of the fact that in the first series, in Siege, he was quite prominent, and his transition to join the Autobots was quite a big centrepiece to work around. Didn't really get explored much in Earthrise, and wasn't at all in Kingdom. If there was more episodes, maybe 8, maybe 10, maybe this could have been fleshed out a bit more, but it hurts the very nature of the programme. Another negative point was Dinobot, sort of. Whereas I liked the character and there was ties into it, I felt the Dinobot character, there was only one way you could do it right. He had to really be a mirror representative of his 90s cartoon styling, his struggles with internal conflict, which he did have to a degree, the Shakespearean voice, I am warrior, the growling, the voice didn't particularly suit with me. It was quite a polar opposite Dinobot to what was the most well-established character of the 90s Beast Wars cartoon, versus this one. This was just a completely different Dinobot. It may as well have been a different character. I didn't mind the character, but when the formula was so right for Dinobot in the 90s, much like a formula for Optimus Prime is, we know what the Prime persona is going to be. Rinse and repeat for every continuity he comes back in. Dinobot, for me, should be treated just the same. This wasn't. This was a different direction for Dinobot, and I felt this was a step missed. Not the right voice, not the right representation. Trinkets here and there, but overall the ball dropped on Dinobot. But if there was one character did they drop the ball with, my god did they drop the ball with Megatron, Beast Wars Megatron. And it wasn't just for the voice acting. Oh, we'll get to that. The voice acting alone was bad, but Beast Wars Megatron, the character was bad. This was a character, again, the 90s cartoon, even in the more modernised IDW comic of Beast Wars, there's a meticulous mind, there's always an agenda for this character. This Beast Wars Megatron in Kingdom was grovelling, he was Megatron's servant, he was cowering almost and blinded by his admiration for his namesake, and it just didn't work. You didn't care for the character, you didn't believe that this guy was a leader, you felt he was just a normal grunt like anyone else. to make matters worse, when he was in his beast mode, this big, massive purple dinosaur, he looked intimidating. It looked like something you felt you should really take notice of. Then when he transformed, he just looked like this. He just lost the enthusiasm for what should be one of your mainstay characters. Again, ball drop with Dinobot, but completely kicked away with Beast Wars Megatron. Also, the story as well. Now, once I quite liked it, I suppose the story wasn't bad, but there were elements of it, like I say, in the early episodes that were misleading. Now, you think about the journey that the Allspark has had, it really didn't make much sense, much point. Don't take the Allspark off-world. They've taken the Allspark off-world. Go and find it. Oh, it's dying, so it's got to go back to where it started. That arc in itself seemed a bit pointless. Surely, I don't know if Prime could have known much about it. And yes, all right, he knew what he was doing at the time, and he thought he was doing the right thing at the time. But if you kind of just end back where you start, it just seemed like a bit of a pointless venture. It felt like they were chasing something just to go back to Cybertron. Nothing particularly changed with them going to Earth other than the Allspark was there and they happened to run into the Beast Wars characters. So misleading and dead-end stories, I guess you get that with 6-episode series, but yeah, that felt misleading at points and there could have been a more linear storytelling going on. Even though I did enjoy it as a whole, there were a couple of things that were unnecessary. And finally, we'll finish off with, yes, you guessed it, the voice acting.
Mother of God.
What can you say? There weren't union actors, and my God did that show. Now, I'll say it as I've said it before. Characters, they don't have to be the cast from back in the day. They didn't have to get the exact cast members. They didn't have to get David Kaye, Gary Chalk, Scott McNeil to reprieve their roles, to come in and basically breathe old life back into their character designs and just recreate Beast Wars. They didn't have to do that. It would have been great if they did, but they didn't have to. I'm all for new actors, but they've got to be of a good enough or similar quality. These were just not. The Beast Wars Megatron voice was the worst one of the lot. It was absolutely awful, didn't fit the character. The Tigertron voice, that would have been better suited for Dinobot. Whilst I didn't mind the voice of Dinobot, that just didn't suit the character. Primal's voice wasn't entirely right. Cheetor's was okay, Rat Trap, not so much. The only ones who I kind of felt worked were Black Arachnia, Air Razor, Starscream is a very common one, and again, they still haven't got Soundwave's voice right, because we all know how he should sound, but my God, the Megatron one did so much damage. Now, it's going to sound like beating a dead horse, but I think it was so bad that it actually affects the storytelling. You've got a good story, and okay, maybe your design and flow of approach is good, but if it's not presented in the right way, you lose interest, and I think the voice acting was so off in comparison that it damaged the story as a whole. I think this would have been a much more enjoyable series if the voice acting was of a high enough calibre to carry the story through to its completion, and that is a very, very big minus on this series. But what can we say? It's now finished, it's now over. It looks like there's going to be something to follow it. They've left the door open with Unicron and there being peace, which is something we don't often see in Transformers when you think of it. It normally comes to some kind of conclusion, generally the Autobots winning. So there's going to be life in it. They're probably just giving themselves an option for when the next toy line comes out. But based on this, I give Kingdom 2.5 Rodimus Star Badges out of 5. It's a bit of a low score and I wasn't even going to give it the half, but I did enjoy the story. It did flow fairly well, particularly towards the end. But also, what do I give the Netflix series as a whole? Now it's kind of all done and dusted, we think. We've got Siege, Earthrise and Kingdom. How does it all come together? What's the overall score? Well, Siege was fine. It was a bit slow in parts. I quite enjoyed Earthrise. I felt that was a good series. I liked the moments within it. And Kingdom had good points, but also had bad points. Overall, I give the Netflix series as a whole 3 Rodimus Star Badges out of 5. It was good, but the voice acting played it right from the start, and with some iffy moments in between, really did hold it back. I don't want to say I don't want to see it again. I will watch it again, and I hope we get more series to come on Netflix in the future. But I do hope they learn from their mistakes and errors. When another series comes out, if there's something to do with legacy, they tweak it here and there to make it a more wholesome show and a more wholesome product come the end of it. But there you go, that is my review of the War for Cybertron Kingdom Netflix series. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy the show? Did you not? What were your best moments? What didn't you like? Leave a note in the comment below, I'd love to know what you think. But thanks for watching, and as always I will see you on the next one.